this thing on for 2 hours because I had it upside down for the period of time.
Really?
And it says yes, that it has to stand at least 2 hours before we can turn it on. So make sure.
All right, we're going to get started in a sec. Just waiting on a couple people. Can you guys hear me okay? Sweet, sweet, sweet. Beautiful. Let me turn my music off. Hold on. Okay, 1 sec. All right, so we'll start with today's beast, ALQA. Quite a few of you nailed it from what I've seen. Did it? You know, quite a few of you got this 3 to 4 move. I missed it in the morning. My my internet was all jacked up. Hold on. My internet was all jacked up this morning, so I actually missed it. But, I mean, I had eyes on it pre-market at my house before I left. They had some merger news. I didn't even look at the news. I just saw it said merger. I still haven't looked at the news. Hold on. Where's my scans? Yeah, spin off and merge its contract manufacturing business with TO Pharmaceuticals LLC. So, I mean, essentially all we've got is a sympathy play with ASNS from yesterday. And obviously I feel like a jackass. I was saying I don't play merger news. And ASNS went nuts yesterday. And like I said, it was doing good volume. And, you know, on second thought, when I looked at it yesterday, I mean, you can't ignore what ASNS did yesterday. I mean, it had a phenomenal squeeze. And what we had been seeing prior to what happened yesterday, let's get ASNS. Here's yesterday's move. But prior to what happened on ASNS yesterday, we've seen barely any end-of-day squeezers. I couldn't remember the last one. And it had a really hard squeeze from the 3 to the 4s. Really, really nice. yeah, and I was just very short biased on it. I couldn't get shares, but I really just was expecting this to fail kind of into the close. But instead it had a massive rip on huge volume. And I really, really should have been watching more closely. I mean, not that I wasn't watching it, but let's get back to yesterday's ASNS quickly. So, I mean, you know, multiple VWAP holds going into the afternoon, going into the end of day. 260 broke. It just kept setting higher lows, higher highs with volume. And obviously a bunch of shorts got trapped here in the twos and then at $3 and had a massive squeeze. Probably re-short at 4, profit taking, whatever else it is, held 360 and then another rip to the mid 4s. Which ultimately ended up being the top. And then after hours, they did a conference call where they mentioned that they have a pre-merger valuation of $50 million. Just going into their 10Q, it looks like they have about 12.3 million shares outstanding, something like that. And if you do the math and take the 50 divided by the 12.3, sorry, hold on. You end up, that's not the exact share count, but when I was doing the math last night, you end up with a value of 3 something. And I think this is pretty fair where it's sitting at right now, $3. I'm sure it probably ends up fading some more, but maybe not. You know, this may be the bottom for now, but this merger won't be complete till Q1 2019. Interest will probably fade and this will probably fade. But you never know. So we'll see. They have that 50 mil valuation. The company that they're merging with, I think, is 115 mil valuation. And like I said, I don't really know what to do with that. All I know is that all that really matters is the price action. And yesterday, if I was on my game, which I wasn't, I would have been buying that break into afternoon and catching that squeeze. I know some of you caught that squeeze yesterday too. But for me, you know, it's something I'll have to make sure I watch, you know, from now on. I mean, I've said I don't really like mergers, but really what I don't like are when you have an acquisition or a merger with a set price right off the bat. ASNS didn't really do that yesterday, so there was kind of some wiggle room wondering exactly how it was going to work out until the conference call after hours. My thoughts on this now, though, is that it's dead, like to me. Even if 3 holds, yeah, you may get some action. I doubt it gets as volatile as it's been. There's no reason for this really now that they show that valuation number for this to go nuts. Obviously that valuation is contingent on some other things. I think 20 million in cash is kind of the benchmark that they have. And going through their 10Q, I mean, they do go through a lot of cash. I think they went through like 30 mil last quarter. So, and from what I saw, they have 40 something million in cash equivalents. So, I mean, there is a chance that their valuation is less going into the merger time actually in January. But like I said, yeah, it's not something that I really care about too much, speculating and trying to get an exact valuation of this company. I'm never looking for exact valuations of these companies. So it doesn't matter that much to me. For now, it's dead. I know Huddy was shorting it earlier today. Some other people were shorting it. You know, overextended gap down. I mean, this thing was massively extended into the 250% range yesterday. Gap down, tried to spike a little bit this morning, but got stuffed. So whatever this does from here is fine with me. I'm not going to be looking to play it. And like I said, you know, you have to be nimble and you have to be able to change your mind and change your opinion. And for me, that means maybe looking a little bit closer into mergers as a catalyst when they do occur, something like this. But like I said, I haven't seen it happen too often where there's merger news and there's a massive run like this. So ASNS, then this morning there's ALQA, and a lot of you nailed this one. It was, and then we'll get into my trade, which was stupid, but not that stupid. Had I been watching, I definitely would have been buying this high day break, this pre-market high day break, 280, 290 area, 3 maybe. This would have been my buy had I been sitting in front of my computer ready to go. This is a setup I really like, considering it's a low float with merger news, and yesterday ASNS ran like this. God, I would really wish I had been in front of my computer this morning, because this would have definitely been my buy. And this is a setup I really like because, yeah, while, you know, it's hard to kind of gauge risk here, this is something where I would play the 280, 290 break and just be really safe. Like, I wouldn't take massive size, and I would, if it didn't work, I'd probably cut it really quickly. But volume came in and it just ripped. Had I been actually, I didn't get to play any of this. I wasn't able to watch it until it was past 4, basically. This is the first pullback, which would be another entry point that I'd consider once it's already spiked to 4 and started to pull back. Got to about 380, pulled back to 320. And this would be an area of interest for me. This would possibly be an area of interest for me on this pullback. But that's pretty much it for me in terms of the actual morning spike. You know, in terms of pullbacks, I'm looking for 1 or 2 on the 1-minute chart. And, you know, in terms of this pullback, the pullback to 320, had I gotten 330, 340, I would have risked 320. And had I been buying this, it would be kind of the same principle. So then you can see, I mean, it consolidated lower highs, higher lows, just kind of wedging here into midday. And a lot of you got this, this 4 to 5. Some of you got the 3 to 4. Some of you were in even earlier, so that's awesome. Garcia asked, for the first pullback, does it have to stay above VWAP for me to consider it a buy? No, not necessarily. It's better if it does. You know, this move, it is strong. At any time this can stay over VWAP shows strength to me. And so in this case where VWAP was at the time, yeah, if this pulled all the way back to VWAP at like 280, I may have been pretty hesitant to buy it. But the fact that it retraced about 50% of the move, 30% maybe, you know, you had a 240 to 380. It's not a small move. And then a pullback to 320. So more or less, you know, about a 40% pullback and held. So, I mean, this is a tough call in real time. Like, you know, in retrospect, anyone can go back and say that, including me. But I'm just objectively saying what I would have done with it, because that's exactly what I would have done with it. So, I mean, when you're saying this in real time, this is what you're seeing on that pullback candle, you know? And then you get this action here. This to me, is a first actual pullback, you know, on the 1-minute chart, green candle, green candle, green candle, halt, green candle, pullback. This is something that where I could risk, you know, 10, 20 cents, give it to about 320 or so. It's not a slam dunk, and it's already up quite a bit at this level. So that, you know, that's one of the issues. The first pullback, it's already up 100-something%. So it's tough. Don't get me wrong. It's definitely tough, but much better to wait for a pullback than just chase strength at all. Obviously, you know, it had a really nice run though. Anyways, then we got VWAP bounce 1, 2, 3, 4 VWAP bounces basically, and a 4 hold here. And I was really considering taking a position here, risking essentially 380, 390. But I've been a little preoccupied. I'm getting our past webinars all loaded up to YouTube on a private channel for you guys today. It's going much faster than the DVD, which is a joke. But Wix sucks, so screw them. But yeah, so we're going to have all the previous webinars up today. There'll be about 3 or 4 of them up today, and the rest, you know, within the next day or 2. And so I'll get you guys the link to the private channel on YouTube for those. That's what I've been mainly working on today. Anyways, got a big crack. Does anyone know if Duck shorted it? I'd imagine he shorted like right here. So that's what he does. I've noticed he's not necessarily trying to dead top these things. He looks for a vulnerable spot and then attacks, which is smart. It was on a nice trend on the 5-minute. Trend broke. Big snap. And wasn't able to recover. I did try to dip buy here at $4 basically. I wasn't looking for anything major to take a real good positional trade. It was a mixture of, it was a big panic. I thought maybe I could get a 30-40 cent bounce. So I grabbed 4K shares, but I cut really quickly. And that's the key. When you're dip buying panics, it is super dangerous. Sorry, I was just kind of reading your comments, but when you're dip buying panics, it is one of the most dangerous, plays that you can do. Really, it's not. I don't find it to be more dangerous than chasing, but when panic sets in, these things can panic much further than you think. So this to me was kind of a stab. I took a stab at 4. I thought I saw it might be holding here. You can see this wick at 4. And this kind of bounce candle. I was thinking maybe we'll get back over VWAP, maybe 430, 440, maybe 450 max. So I was thinking, maybe it was an overdone, drop midday. But I cut super quickly. You can see. I don't dick around when I'm dip buying panics. I have in the past. So I'm not looking to play the average down game and try, just kind of take pieces as it goes down. I wanted to bounce at 4 and go to 450. That was my plan. If it didn't work, then I was going to cut, and it didn't work. So I lost $540 on that trade, and it doesn't really bother me. It's okay. I took a stab. It didn't work. Definitely a little FOMO here because I missed everything, and I saw the panic and went for it. So no, it didn't work, but I'm totally okay with that. Like I said, not all trades work, and this is another example of that. Not a home run setup. Usually this is the beginning of the end when you see a crack like this, and especially it's basically just a sympathy play to yesterday, but it's a hell of a sympathy play. It's done 36.6 million volume. It's done $150 million volume. Massive amount of volume went through this stock today. Is it dead? Yes. To me, it's completely dead. And I wasn't able to find shares, unfortunately. Thank you. Sorry, guys. Just had some In-N-Out burger delivered. I'll have to wait a little bit. Let's see here. Anyway, so yeah, it's, I went for a little dip buy there. It didn't work out. I cut. Simple as that. Lost $500. It's when you hold and hope, like when you're holding thinking the bounce is overdone and you're thinking maybe 380 should hold, 370 should hold, all that. None of this really matters once this thing gets under VWAP and cracks like that. And now literally every single person is basically underwater that's traded this today. So you have to be really careful when it's volume like this. Kind of the flip side of ASNS. ASNS held up, kept holding VWAP, and then broke out end of day, and you have shorts holding and hoping kind of thing. That being said, like ASNS, for example, I'd hate to jump around, but I think it's important. This run it made yesterday was overdone. Like, I had no doubt it was overdone. Anytime I see extension like this going into close, I don't call it an overnight. Anytime there's a parabolic into close, for the most part, I don't consider it an overnight. Even though that sounds kind of funny because I'm looking for overnights with a catalyst and closing near their highs. But generally, if you get that big parabolic move with volume, that was kind of the last squeeze yesterday. They just squeezed everyone and then pulled the rug. So, and then of course you had the after hours conference call. But very interesting. I do like the fact that we've had 200% runners with massive volume. We're getting into the last month of the year now, and I'm looking for some momentum here. I think we're finally getting a little bit. That being said, ALQA, ASNS didn't go into day 2, which is unfortunate. So it wasn't like a gapper and a multi-day runner. ALQA is not going to go into day 2, so it's not a gapper and multi-day runner, which is lame. It totally sucks. But this is good. It's good to know. I'll be looking for low floats tomorrow morning. We'll be doing a market open webinar, and we'll be rocking from there. Let's see what else. So ALQA, like I said, went for a little dip buy, didn't work. I'm cool with it. Julio asked, I mentioned at the beginning of the webinar doing some numbers that for the share counts or how to know how much the company is worth. Yeah. See, valuation, like I said, I don't care about because I'm not trying to find true value of these companies. None of these companies are usually valued at what they're supposed to be once they start running. They get super overextended and way overvalued. I mean, that's just kind of what happens down here. And so I don't really care about the valuation so much. I know that these companies are all worthless for the most part. I mean, ASNA or ASNS has literally never turned a profit. They have an accumulated deficit of like, I want to say 100 million or something like that. They generate no revenue. Like there's no, especially when you're looking at biotechs, pharmaceutical companies that have no revenue. I mean, they're sketch. They're so sketch. But my main concern is we haven't seen any 2-day runners. I mean, the closest thing we have is ANY. And ANY is a shit sandwich that is just holding up for now. And all I can say is like they've basically been maintaining this trend for quite a while now. Let's go, what is this? Let's go to the 15-minute chart. I mean, you can see they've just been trending since 11/20, so for quite a while. We've kind of got this wedge going on type of thing. Hey, what the hell just happened here? I don't know. That's weird. Why? I mean, big picture. Here's big picture. It's setting higher lows still. It's consolidating pretty much near its highs on the daily. But we've got these ugly wicks, these ugly dojis. And this, to me, everyone's just waiting for the offering pretty much. I think anyone who's shorting this, I think Ratani shorted it yesterday. I think that's what Huddy told me. But anyone who's shorting this, it's like they're just waiting for the offering, I'm pretty sure. I've been considering getting short overnight on this thing and just kind of holding it for a while. But it's restricted at Cobra, which is a pain in my ass. And the shares I could have gotten are like 30 cents a share. So no dice, but it is interesting. Like I said, if they don't do an offering, like in the next day or two, I could, and this holds up and holds trend, I could see it breaking 850 and going to 10 like I predicted several days ago. But I don't want to be long. And I would much rather be short. I just can't short it right now. But I mean, you got to be weary that this thing is holding up. And if you're short, it's got to be frustrating. I mean, fundamentals are on your side. They need to hit their 2.5 million shareholder equity requirement. Yeah. So I'm not touching ANY. I haven't gone long. I haven't been able to short. I considered dip buying yesterday out of the gate, when but I was focused elsewhere. But I was considering this as a dip buy yesterday, and it would have been a good dip buy. Like you would have, you had a couple bucks upside yesterday. Today, not so much, it's a smaller dip, a smaller rip, and we're really kind of getting into this pinch area here. So it's got to do something soon. But who knows? If they don't do an offering and I see it hold tomorrow, I may consider it, But it's nothing I'm going to be holding overnight, and it's nothing that I would really expect anything to go crazy. So I got to be careful. It's kind of speculative, and when the fundamentals are so against you, it's really tough for me. That's why I do that research in the first place. Like, that part of the trade, my trading aspect is important to me. And I don't like to ignore the fact that you're playing with fire if you're going long in a stock like ANY at this point, this far into the move. It's important. Sorry, one sec, guys. Hold on. Bear with me for 1 second. If you guys have questions you can think of, start firing them off so that I can get to them when I get back from the restroom. Hold on. All right. We're back. All right. What's going on with Bitcoin quickly? Is something going on with Bitcoin? Anyone know? I'll check it out real quick. BTC, USD. Let's look at this crypto crap chart quickly. Huh. I don't see anything of interest to me. Is there news or something? I only say that because I'm seeing a couple of the biddies popping up on my thing. And I see a couple cannabis stocks too. IGCC's up 30%. CanB, CVSI. Where's my weed guys at? Any of my weed guys in the chat right now? Farm Bill. And like I said, those of you who already know that this is what I use as my main scan. It's ridiculous how many stocks obviously I have on here, but it's good. I know how to use it. It works really well for me, especially, like I said, I can look at it and say, okay, BTSC, IGCC, IGCC's weed, kind of. BTSC, GBTC, Riot, CanB is weed, MGTI. So I see a bunch of weed stocks and I see a bunch of Bitcoin stocks kind of moving today. I don't really care about the Bitcoin stocks. I mean, they're all beat up to hell. BTSC's at 2 cents. $200 volume. GBTC has done some good dollar volume. Riot. You guys have my take on ANY. It's I'm short biased, but I could see it running. Like if this were to break out of this wedge, it could press 850. It's been kind of consolidating for a while, just short of its highs. And it's heavily shorted, heavily shorted. And I'm sure everyone's just waiting for this offering. And if the offering doesn't come soon, you never know. You never know. but it's not something I'm looking to take overnight, especially. And my other concern long wise is that volume has been dying out a little bit today. It's done not too much. It hasn't done too much volume. I guess my only issue, the other issue is there hasn't been a big panic yet. You know, I mean, it's just been kind of consolidating between 650 and 750, like 650 and 750 for the last couple of days now. So if I was short, I'd be frustrated, but I wouldn't be too concerned, if that makes sense. And if I were trying to hold this long, I would be scared shitless of an offering. So it's something that I can pretty much ignore for now. Every day that they don't do an offering, I've been watching it just to see how it's going to react. And you do get a little pop each morning. So we'll see. We'll see. There may be a long opportunity here tomorrow. Who knows? But into the afternoon, I doubt there's anyone going to be buying it no matter what it does going into the afternoon. Unless it has some kind of random squeeze. There's obviously the chance that they could release a PR or something. You know what I mean? Instead of doing an offering right away, or they may have an offering lined up and they may want to pump it some more. You know, they're in the territory in terms of their chart, even though this was in the pennies, of a possible big kind of gap scenario, like to $15. I know it sounds ridiculous, but I like to be a little bit creative in what I'm looking at in terms of the chart. And I see 10 resistance and then basically no resistance for a while. So who knows? They could drop a PR and that could change things. If they were to drop a PR with no offering, I mean, it would be something I would definitely consider going long on. But like I said, not into the afternoon, not with the risk of the offering. So as for wheat stocks, we are getting a bounce. We have a bunch of wheat stocks hit my radar: IGCC, CVSI's up, CanB. Yeah, so there are quite a few that have been hitting up on my list. NBEV even. NBEV's bouncing, even though NBEV's ugly. I would love for the wheat stocks to get running again. That would be great, I think, for everyone. OTCs have been a little lame and tame as of late. Thoughts on BPTH, Pavel? I've played this in the past. Yeah, no real thoughts and not really sure why you're watching it at all, to be honest. It's up 2%. It's not volatile. This was most likely an offering back in September. We can check it out. It's not worth checking out, but we can if you'd like. Just to show you how I look at gap downs. Let's just do it real quick. BPTH. Disclosures. See, we don't even have to. There's the 424B5 on 9/21. And it happens to coincide with this. So it's pretty, once you see these charts enough, you understand what's going on. That's an offering. That's why there was this gap down. So you may be looking at it for a possible gap up or something like that. I don't see a play here. Sure enough, the 424B forms, those are prospectus. For offerings, 2 million shares of common stock, pre-funded warrants for 290,000 shares of common stock and 290,000 shares underlying the pre-funded warrants. Yeah, so they just did an offering. It's just not something I'm concerned with. Offering price was 65 cents per share. HC Wainwright, did I just see them? Yep, HC Wainwright, which they're all over the place. Tango was mentioning earlier that they're one of the biggest. Sorry, one sec. anyways, a lot of times when you see these offerings, HC Wainwright's one of the biggest ones that do this. The Maxim Group, there are a couple others that you'll see a lot. Pre-funded warrants at 64 cents per share. Have an exercise price of 1 cent and will be immediately exercised and maybe exercised anytime until exercised in full. Common stock outstanding afterwards, 13.3 million. Yeah, this is not worth us looking at. The key is we got to focus on trying to find volatility, and this is not going to get volatile. And even if it were to get into this gap, what's your maximum upside? It's not great. So the Weed Farm Bill, the Hemp Farming Act, will remove hemp as a designated controlled substance, which I don't even know why it is a controlled substance. Just my personal opinion. Legalizing the crop under federal law will allow CBD to be sold legally in all 50 states, even though they're already pretty much selling it everywhere that I can see. Every smoke shop now sells CBD stuff, and pretty much anywhere they're all selling CBD already. Main benefit will be increased opportunity for investment, providing hemp industry with access to full range of financial, market development, advisory services, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so I mean, there's something. There's a catalyst. And pretty much the way weed goes and the way the weed sector moves, the main catalyst for that sector, it always comes down to government. So we'll see elections start to move stocks. Obviously, the Democrats took the House in the midterm elections, and a lot of people see that as positive for the weed sector, along with Sessions resigning. Yeah. But we'll see what happens. Let's check out a couple of these. Let's check out a couple of them while we're at it. Start with the IGCC. This was IGC. Now it's an OTC, obviously. Way off its highs. Nice little bounce day. Who knows? I'll keep an eye on IGCC going into tomorrow. I'm not planning on trading it yet necessarily. But there's IGCC, CVSI. Just so much here. Very ugly. It looks like basically all these other plays. NBEV. Similar scenario here. Nice move on NBEV. Really nice move on NBEV today. I know they had those warrants going on. I don't know. I'm sure plenty have been exercised already, but killer end of day move on NBEV. Killer. I was trying to play it like on these days, and I actually was trying to short it as well. I think a lot of people were. Do they have a CBD drink? Is that what it is? NBEV? Do they have a CBD drink? I think they do. Something like that. CVSI, CANB, CANB's up. So yeah, I mean, definitely got a bounce going on the pot stocks right now. See what Cron's doing. They're probably bouncing too. Cron's only up 3%. But NBEV, nice move on NBEV. A tough call here. And this is why trend lines are just kind of subjective. It's not really, I got that kind of thing going on. I mean, I would consider possibly NBEV kind of into overnight, but I don't know. I'm not 100% sure what to do with it. Just so much overhead resistance, but really nice move. Really nice move. It's based in the 3s and 350s now for a little while. basically 350, I'd say. But I'm not just going to chase this into close. But there's a catalyst, so that's important. And the whole sector's kind of moving, so that's important to me too. Bitcoin stocks I'm going to ignore probably forever for now. Listed stocks, ALQA is dead to me. That's pretty much it, besides like NBEV at this point. Nothing else really interests me in terms of listed stocks. Seems it interesting that ASNS didn't drop more today. It doesn't surprise me at all because they gave you their exact valuation that they're using for this merger yesterday. They gave you the exact valuation. So, I mean, if anything, according to their valuation right now at $3, it's a little undervalued, but I don't trust their valuation. And there's a lot of other stuff. If you really look into what they were saying yesterday, there's other stuff at play. And their valuation may end up being larger or smaller come merger time. That's if the merger even happens, because it's not necessarily finalized yet. You know, they don't close until next year. So it doesn't surprise me that 3's holding at all. Like I said, but it's not something I really care about too much, nor do I, or I'm not really going to play it. This will probably sit, if this holds 3, it's just going to probably sit between 3 and 4, like for a while. But I mean, if you want to take a stab at it, could you risk like 290? Absolutely. And buy it here. It's something that I'm not going to do. But you have decent risk reward. If you're looking to get this back to 350 or 4, you get, a 10 cent kind of risk to a 50 cent kind of reward, 80 cent maybe, max $1. But I don't care. I'm not really looking to play it now that the move's done. It's not really volatile right now. It's just kind of consolidating. It's something to keep eyes on, but there's not really any momentum there right now. ALQA is dead. DTEA perking up on the Farm Bill news. Yeah, DTEAs, I mean, not really interested in it. Definitely a little perk there with volume. So that's not the worst thing. Kind of multi-day break, but same as all these other pot stock charts. Maybe we'll get a day 2 out of these. There's some decent volume coming back. There are some good runners lately. But so far, all of these weed bounce days have been one and dones, even the ones that are strong into the afternoon, that's what concerns me. Look at NBEV. I mean, you bounce and then drop, bounce, drop, bounce, drop, bounce, drop. There's been no real day 2 follow-up. Maybe this is the time, though. Maybe we will get a follow-up today, but so, I mean, in terms of the weed stocks, the way I'm looking at it right now, I'm going to wait to see what they do in the morning. I'm going to wait to see if they're going to gap. If they all look like they're going to gap up, I will very much consider buying weed stocks in the morning. Does that make sense? So we haven't seen any 2-day bounces out of weed, so I'll just wait to see if we get a gap up. I'm not really going to risk buying into close when it's already kind of extended itself today and then getting a gap down. I think that's going to be the route I take. If you guys want to take an overnight on weed stocks, that's your choice, obviously. And with the Farm Bill thing, yeah, who knows? Maybe we'll get a day 2, but I just don't have enough conviction to take them overnight for now. And I could be wrong. But for me, I'd rather wait, see them gap up, and then have be able to risk like green red or something like that. Julio asked, I said I'd rather be concerned with the dollar volume than the volume. Where do I go? Mine's right on my equity feed, dollar volume. Mine's right on my scan. Right here, dollar volume. But I mean, if you want to get a quick idea of the dollar volume, all you have to do is take the volume, multiply by the price for the most part. It's not going to be completely accurate, but you'll get kind of an idea. Princess, can I go over the concept of pre-funded warrants? Yeah, really simple. Pre-funded warrants are just basically pre-funded common stock warrants, and they're usually immediately exercisable, and usually their exercise price is a penny. So whenever I see pre-funded warrants, I am concerned. There's usually not an exercise price on those. They just, like in the case of BLPH, which we looked at, they have pre-funded warrants that are immediately exercisable, and their price was like whatever it was, 56 cents. I forget what the price was, 54 cents or something, and they can just immediately exercise them. Pretty simple. It's not a good thing. Tango grabbed MBEV 405 and CVSI 424. Nice. Yeah, had I been watching and grabbed them, yeah, I definitely would have considered that's a great buy. 405 on NBEV is amazing. You know, that's a great area to be, and I would be definitely comfortable taking shares overnight if I had a great average like that. It's just chasing into close that I don't want to do. You know, I don't want to be chasing any of these into close, really. All of these charts have tons of overhead resistance at this point. Tons of volume, tons of overhead resistance. So you're going to have bag holders selling into most of these spikes. But they're also way off their lows. So we'll see what happens. I'm hoping that they bounce tomorrow. I'm hoping that we get gaps up in all of these tomorrow. I'm also quite a bit less aggressive this year. The markets have tamed me a little bit to the long side in terms of size. And like I said, my aggression on overnights in particular, I'm very cautious with overnights right now because they haven't been working well. And I've already tried NBEV and I've tried these wheat stocks several times long overnight on these bounce days, only to be confronted with gap downs the next day. So that's the only reason I'm being really careful. I'm not going to chase into close. I'm just playing it safe. That's all. I'm just playing it safe. If these wheat plays can gap up tomorrow, I'll definitely consider going long. But I'll also make sure I have shares because I'm not completely long biased on wheat stocks. But I would love to get a 2 or 3 day bounce where I can make some good profits to the long side and then hopefully switch my bias and get a good short. So I'm hoping that these things get really extended. That would be great. I'm just not going to chase them. What's the minimum or average dollar volume will work for me? It depends on OTCs. Sometimes I'll trade stocks that do $200,000-$300,000 volume. On listed stocks. And so long, there's a big difference between long and short, you know, I mean, if you're shorting properly on plays like ASNS, ALQA, you don't have to worry about liquidity. It's there. It's there, and they're up 200%. You know, it's a little bit easier, and you don't really have to worry about it there. When I'm going long and I'm trying to find these moves early, there are times where I'm playing these plays with $500,000 volume. You know, it's just a matter of when am I playing it? Is it liquid when I'm playing it? You know, I mean, has it done no volume and all of a sudden it's done $500,000 volume over the last 10 minutes? That's important to me, you know? So in terms of dollar volume, I want to know at that time when I'm taking the trade, if I need to cut at my risk, am I going to be able to at the price I want? That's really important to me. So dollar volume, yeah, super important. I like to see stocks, you know, that have done at least $1 million in dollar volume for the most part. That's kind of my threshold, but I'm not saying I don't trade stocks that do less. That I'm not saying I won't trade it just because it does less than that. If the circumstances are right when I'm trying to get in nice and early, I'll play, you know, in the morning with a couple $100,000 in dollar volume if it's building volume. Does that make sense? Not just, you know, not all day. It's only done 200,000 in dollar volume. But in the morning, yeah. Does that make sense, Duilio? It's not, I don't have an exact threshold. I just need to know, can I get out? And oftentimes, if it's early in the move where I want to be, there's not going to be that much dollar volume. But I size accordingly. You know, if a stock's in $100,000 volume, I'm not taking a $50,000 position. I'm not trying to take half the dollar volume for the day. So main focus right now would be weed stocks. Yeah, we've got Bitcoin stocks kind of moving today, but I really don't care about those. That's pretty illiquid. BTSC, IGCC's weed stock too. Keep an eye on this. Yeah, just this one isn't really moving either. I mean, it's up, but just very ugly intraday. It's hard for a sector to recover after massive moves like this. It's really hard. It's kind of like trying to swim upstream, trying to paddle upstream, you know, with so much overhead resistance, which is why the initial run on the weed plays was so good. Like, you know, the August run, August, September was so good because it didn't have this kind of resistance. It was just charting new territories on all of these stocks and pushing highs and gapping up. Once this happens, it's just like really, really tough for these things to move. Particularly, a lot of these stocks did offerings and dilution into these moves, which I don't blame them. You know, obviously they're going to do that and raise cash. ALQA is back down to $3. Just absolutely nuts. And that's why you don't hold and hope. And that's why when I'm dip buying this panic midday, I'm super, super careful. You know, you can see how quickly I cut this. It's great. I mean, I lost $500, but I had 4,000 shares. I didn't have a tiny, tiny position, you know? And actually, the only reason I didn't get to cut all of it at these first two triangles was because I messed up on my order sheet. And so that's what you're seeing on this last sell here. I was just getting rid of the last bits of my shares. and I lost like 5-7 cents a share or something like that. But super careful, you know what I mean? I'm not. It could have easily turned into a $2,000 loss or more if I'm not careful there. And then if I decide not to cut and hold and hope, right now I'm staring at a $4,000 loss plus. So, I mean, holding and hoping is like literally the worst thing you can do, especially when dip buying panics. They can just keep going. That's usually the beginning of the end, particularly when there's, this stock doesn't have a massive reason to be up like this. And it was so much volume now trapped overhead. It's just not good. Unreal. Questions. I have to leave a little bit early. I have to pick my son up from school today. My wife's minivan is dead. Her battery's dead. So I do have to leave probably in about 10 minutes, which also factors into one of the reasons I'm not going long on anything or looking to take anything overnight. I'm not going to be able to watch the last 20 minutes today. Speed Trader or IB for PDT trading, shorting? I've never used Speed Trader. IB's okay. I like IB. If you don't have like the 30K to open an account elsewhere, I like IB. You're not going to get borrows for everything, but they have decent borrows there, for your run-of-the-mill play. Could I drop the link to the YouTube page? Yeah, as soon as I get it set up. I just have to make a private page so that not just anyone can come. As soon as I have the link for you guys, it'll be in the chat, and I'll pin it. So for me, not a great trading week so far. I missed both massive runners, and that's all right. My analysis of ALQA is purely a sympathy play from ASNS yesterday. Yes. Just the fact that the word merger was in their PR this morning and they were a low float would have been enough for me to play it this morning right out the gate. And yeah, and I do believe that's also why you saw a big crack. Also was up 200 and something percent already. It was up 200 something percent. Both. It was up 200%, and there's a 5 stuff again. And here's one of my issues is, it set a high a day at basically $5, and it broke high a day, but barely. 20 cents, not enough to really get people worried. Obviously, I'm sure some people panicked out if they were short, but this second 5 stuff, you have to look at it like this. So it sets a high. Let's draw this real quick. I just do a normal line. So you get the run to 5. You get pullback, okay? There you go. 30, 40% pullback. Then this next leg, we get to 520. So you can say this is still strong, and it breaks its previous high, but just barely. 20 cents or so for the next pullback. Okay, so still intact, high or low. And now we try again, and we can't break this high, and we barely over this high. Trend line snaps, ducks and everyone's short, and it's dead. The fact that, in other words, I'm saying it's not like setting higher highs and higher lows repeatedly and in a convincing fashion. This high a day break, although it was a great move from 4 straight to 5, wasn't convincing. If this were to have held and then just ripped through 5 again, different story. Maybe it sets a higher low and holds 5 and then continues. But the fact that it couldn't get back up and got stuff there was pretty ominous. And that's why, you got to be super careful midday. When these things are up 200%, you have no business buying stocks up 200% midday. Really, there's no, it's tough. FOMO comes in, it looks strong. It's still setting higher lows. It looks like it's going to break the high a day, but it's so risky. And that crack was massive and fast. It'd be tough to get out of that and respect your risk if you were risking like even 450, 460. Really quick snap there. So yeah, I say ALQA is purely a sympathy play, and sympathy plays, you have to be careful. But 200% upside is not bad. But if you're trying to buy this at $5, there's definitely FOMO, greed, and chasing there. Mikey saw a question on recent Steady Trade podcast. He's always wondered, Johnson, I feel, didn't answer well on a stock with good catalyst that's running. How do I determine whether it's going to be just a morning spike dip buy opportunity or if it's going to keep climbing all day long? You feel it's a great question. Yeah, there's no way to know for sure. For me, it comes down to price action and strength of move. So like I said, I'm looking at retracements and high day breaks. I want to see it break and run and then set a higher low and then break and run. Those are the kind of charts I like. VWAP hold, that's important to me. If you look at ASNS yesterday, totally different chart yesterday. So here's a good example because there were similarities to today's pattern. High daybreak, but barely, and then same exact perk, but couldn't get over it. And I think this lower high is what kind of flipped my bias to where I was thinking about going long, but didn't. But the fact that it held VWAP here on this hold, as opposed to just snapping straight through VWAP and then failing to get back over it, makes a big difference. It makes a big difference. And the price action was just way different. It was really trappy. You could see when it came back to 2, you could see the support there. It was really, really good support. And then you can see it just starts sitting higher lows, and breaks into end of day. As opposed to like just a straight spike from 2 to 3 or something like that. Yes, this was pretty extended, but it was trading in a range of basically 240 to 240 cents or so. So it wasn't like today where it was a massive run and a big pull and then another big run from 4 to 5. There's, quite a few differences between today and yesterday. This looked like this was shorted to hell in the morning. I guarantee you just tons of people shorting that 240 top, using 250 or so, and then probably hung in here and then had to get squeezed eventually. So you can see the difference. In comparison to ALQA, ALQA, which today had this kind of similar thing, but then just dropped. But ALQS was already up. ALQA was already up 200% at this point in the chart. It's a little bit different. And this was the first one. ALQA was a sympathy play. So I hope that makes sense. There's no way of knowing for sure, but for me, a lot comes down to what have stocks been doing recently. If we haven't seen stocks climbing all day long, then you got to be careful. The second we see it actually happening and it becomes a trend where we do have stocks that move all day and start squeezing into the end of close and then gap up the next day, then it's different. So it's just a pattern that's not really been in play. And most of these plays have been getting killed midday. Like I said, prior to ALQA today, prior to ASNS yesterday, that's why I was so short biased on ASNS too, because we haven't seen anything like that for a while. And I guarantee you that's why a lot of people got squeezed hard by ASNS yesterday. It took people off guard because we've been seeing most of these plays fail midday. So for me, it's, at this point, it's hard to say. I can never say with certainty in the morning whether it's going to be a day-long move. You can't say that. You never know. I always prepare for them to crack at some point whenever I'm long. And that's why I'm safe and I like to sell into strength. You never know when that is going to be the last push. So for me, it really comes down to, it doesn't matter if it's going to run all day or not. You don't need to know that. If you can get in on the morning spike on a pullback or whatever the setup may be, and you start selling into strength, then you'll be in an okay position, as long as you're not going to let a trade go red on you. So it's hard to say for sure. You don't know. You just have to play the price action throughout the day. But a good indicator is if you do have a good catalyst and the chart's good and it's a low float and it's setting higher highs and higher lows and it's not going parabolic. Generally, when you see a real parabolic spike, you got to beware. It may be the end. But that's what you're looking for. If you're long, you're looking for the parabolic. And when you get the parabolic, you get to take those great profits. The key is not to chase parabolics. So that's a really good question. And my answer is there's no way of knowing first thing in the morning if a stock's going to move all day. You just have to continue to play the price action. And then midday, things can get really choppy, and then you want to see how is it going to react into the end of the day. My only answer to that would be, are the important levels holding? Are pullbacks holding? Or do they start to set lower highs and lower lows? Is trend holding up? That type of thing. I think about Dropbox for downloading videos. Yeah, possibly. I'll know by Friday. Yeah, I think a lot of people were surprised that that ASNS held up after the VWAP break yesterday. A lot of people were surprised. And I guarantee you that's why it squeezed so hard. Whereas you can see ALQA, kind of similar pattern, but massively extended already, broke down below VWAP and couldn't reclaim, like even on this bounce, like that was pretty much the end. Pull back on what time frame mainly? When I'm looking to take a position? I'm looking at all time frames. I'm obviously going to play the 1 minute. I'm watching the 1 minute. But I'll have usually the 5-15 minute up, something like that. And I do that so I can see the other time. People are trading different time frames. I want to see what they're seeing. I want to see if there's a level of support that's very clear on the 1 minute, 5 minute, 15 minute chart that I can use. And that'll strengthen my conviction on that risk level. But if you're playing morning, and you're looking for the first pullback in the morning, for me, I have to use the 1 minute time frame. There's not enough chart history or chart setup for me to do that unless it's day 2 or day 3 or something like that. And even then, I'm always using 1 minute time frame for entries, exits. I'm using 5 and 15 minute time frames for bigger picture and to see important levels of support and resistance and overall trend. But when it comes to entry and when I'm in the trade, I'm using the 1 minute time frame still. which I believe is still the most popular with day traders. But like I said, it's good, particularly going into the afternoons, to look at the 5 and 15 minutes. And that's how I find important levels. I mean, you can kind of see ALQA right now, but I mean, if we go to the 15-minute time frame, you can really kind of break down these levels a little bit further. That's it for me today, guys. Sorry, I got to go get my son from school. We'll be doing market open, so we'll start 15 minutes before the open tomorrow. I'll get a watch list out tonight. I may actually do the watch list in the morning because generally, obviously, we have news coming after hours and in the morning. And for the most part, with my longs, we're playing new stocks every day. That's just a fact. I mean, most of the time, the biggest runner of the day is not yesterday's biggest runner, if that makes sense to you guys. So I'll do my watch list pre-market tomorrow. I'll start doing it pre-market every morning instead, so I can include pre-market gainers and be able to do some quick research and have a good idea of what's going on with those. I think it'll be more helpful if I just do a watch list the night before. So I'll do that tomorrow morning. We'll keep you guys posted on the YouTube progress. And be safe. Like I said, we've got weed stocks that I'll be kind of watching into tomorrow, but I'm not looking to take them overnight. I'm looking to hopefully get a gap up and then be able to play them. So we'll see. But everyone have a good one. Be safe, and we'll catch you in chat in the morning, and we'll catch you for tomorrow morning's webinar.